36 seasons, thousands of throwaway jokes, and 7 of them line up with this exact year, 2026. A yellow cartoon family sketched smartwatches before they were on your wrist, called Donald Trump's presidency before the vote, and named a flu after a Japanese city before health agencies started tracking a real one. 6 of those 7 are still arguments about the future. One already left the screen and walked into a hospital near you, and I'll tell you exactly which before this is over. First, the part skeptics hate. Because the easy move is to call all of this coincidence and walk away. But The Simpsons called Donald Trump's presidency back in 2000. It drew Twitter morphing into a single letter, X, years before Elon Musk bought it and renamed it. It sketched smartwatches, video calls, even a Lady Gaga Super Bowl show suspended on wires. 36 seasons. Thousands of gags. Throw that many darts and some will land. Fine. But 7 of them landing on one single year? That's where fans lost it. So here are the rules. I'm not counting vague stuff, no. They drew a tower, so they predicted everything. 7 scenes. Each one points at something tied to 2026 specifically. And each one is being screenshotted across the internet right now with the same 2 words in the caption. They know. Fans aren't laughing anymore. They're stitching episode timestamps next to live news footage, frame for frame. And honestly, a few of these are genuinely hard to wave away. We start gentle, with the ones that feel almost charming, the predictions that make you smile a second before they make you uneasy. Then it climbs. Mass job losses, killer weather, government aliens, a third world war. And finally, the scene that stopped being a prediction altogether, because it walked off the television and into a hospital near you. 7 scenes, 1 impossible year. Let's go. Scene 1. Deep Space Homer, 1994. NASA, desperate for ratings, decides the fix is to launch an ordinary nobody into orbit, a regular guy strapped into a rocket purely for the cameras. For decades, that was just the joke. Space was for astronauts, not influencers. Then last year, a rocket carried an all-civilian crew past the edge of the atmosphere, including a famous pop star, cameras rolling, the entire thing built for the broadcast. The Simpsons didn't only predict space tourism, it predicted the vibe. And the timing matters, because 2026 is when this stops being a stunt and turns into an industry. Multiple companies are now openly selling seats. The exact thing the show mocked, turning a launch into entertainment, picking passengers for fame instead of training, is now the literal business model. Play the episode and the modern footage side by side, and the framing is nearly identical. Same grin, same spectacle, same circus. One of them was written more than 30 years ago. Scene 2. Treehouse of Horror 12. 2001. The family moves into a fully controlled smart home. It locks the doors, runs the lights, answers the moment you speak. Cute. Until the house grows a personality and starts, let's say, resenting them. Back in 2001, talking to your living room was pure science fiction. Today, there's a glowing cylinder sitting on millions of kitchen counters doing exactly that, always listening for its name. The show even nailed the creepy part. The quiet unease of a house that never stops listening. Scene 3. Lisa's Wedding, 1995. A character lifts his wrist and talks straight into his watch, making a call. No phone anywhere in sight. In 95, that was a punchline about some far-off future. Now it's on half the wrists in this room. But here's the detail fans circled. That same episode is set in a future timeline, and a British character casually drops a reference to a third world war. People laughed in 95. In 2026, with the headlines we're living through, nobody is laughing. Hold that thread, it comes back. And that's where this list shifts from cute to uncomfortable. Scene 4. Them, Robot, 2012. Mr. 2, Burns, the cheapest man alive, fires his entire human workforce and replaces every last one with AI robots purely to slash costs. Homer ends up the last man standing in a plant run by machines. For years it played as cartoon corporate greed. Then read the last 12 months. Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, major companies openly restructuring around AI, real people losing real jobs to software that never sleeps and never asks for a raise. And it's not a fringe worry anymore. A U.S. Senate committee report floated a number that stops a conversation cold. AI could eliminate close to 100 million jobs. 100 million. The Simpsons compressed that entire economic earthquake into one nuclear plant and one billionaire who simply wanted a fatter profit margin. The motive in the cartoon and the motive in the real boardroom are identical efficiency, no matter the human cost. That's not prophecy. That's pattern recognition. But the next one is a lot harder to explain. Scene 5, Homer the Heretic, 1992. Homer skips church and a freak, brutal blizzard buries the entire town. Bizarre, sudden, violent weather dropping out of a clear sky. Funny in 92. A lot less funny in the first week of 2026, when a single cross-country storm system threatened millions of Americans, shut down travel, and put whole regions under emergency warnings. Wild weather isn't new, sure. But fans lined the episode's imagery up against this winter's footage, and the resemblance was close enough to send it trending. Here's where it gets really strange. Scene 6. The Springfield Files, 1997. The one where agents from a certain three-letter bureau descend on Springfield to investigate a glowing alien out in the woods. For decades, government and aliens in the same sentence meant tinfoil hats and basement forums. But over the past couple of years, that exact conversation moved into official hearings, sworn testimony, declassified footage. The fringe became the briefing room. And a lot of people fully expect 2026 to be the year something concrete finally drops. Whether you buy any of it or not, the cultural shift is undeniable. The topic that once got you laughed out of the room is now discussed with a straight face by officials in uniform. Which loops us right back to that World War thread from Lisa's wedding. A separate 1987 short even showed the family huddled in a bomb shelter as air raid sirens wail outside. Two scenes, two different decades, both pointing dead at global conflict, and both aired long before any of today's flashpoints even existed. Add Thank God It's Doomsday from 2005, where Homer becomes convinced the world is ending on a specific date and the sky literally cracks open above him. Now stack them all up. A pandemic, machines swallowing jobs, freak storms, government aliens, a third world war, the apocalypse itself. 6 scenes, 1 suspicious year. At this point, even the skeptics down in the comments tend to go quiet. But I told you at the very start that one of these isn't a prediction about the future at all. So which one? Here's the uncomfortable answer. 6 of those scenes are still just arguments could happen, might happen, depends entirely on who you ask and how nervous they are. The 7th is not an argument. It already happened. It is sitting in the news cycle as you watch this video. And it might be the single most chilling thing the writers ever put on screen because they didn't merely guess the event. They guessed the road it would travel to reach you. Scene 7. Marge in Chains, 1993. A deadly flu, they call it the Osaka flu, erupts in Japan and gets shipped, literally boxed up and mailed, across the ocean into Springfield, where it sparks mass panic and a stampede for a cure. For 30 years, that episode was famous, mostly as a COVID meme. People dusted it off in 2020 during the pandemic and said, "See, they called it, but that is not the part that should raise the hair on the back of your neck. The part that should is the geography." Because right now, as you watch this, a flu variant is spreading. Health agencies are tracking a strain of influenza, AH3N2, the so-called subclade, K, and by early January 2026, it was surging across the United States, the United Kingdom, and, of all places, Japan. Some outlets are openly calling it a superflu, a nasty respiratory bug originating in the same corner of the world the cartoon named, hitting right on the calendar. Osaka flu, written in 1993. Read that one more time. Now let's be honest, because I promised you accuracy, not hype. The real strain isn't literally mailed in a cardboard box, and flu seasons roll around every single year. That part is not magic. But the specific combination is what fans genuinely can't shake. A flu, framed as a global scare, tied in the public imagination to Japan, landing dead center in the exact year the rest of this list keeps circling. Out of 7 scenes, this is the one that already came true. That is the one I promised you at the start. So how does a 36-year-old comedy keep pulling this off? The unglamorous truth: the writer's room was stacked with Harvard-trained mathematicians and scientists who built jokes out of real-world trends, then pushed those trends to their most absurd possible conclusion. Predict enough exaggerated outcomes for long enough, and reality eventually stumbles into a handful of them. It's not a crystal ball. It's thousands of educated guesses, and the internet only ever screenshots the hits, never the thousands and thousands of quiet misses. But that explanation, satisfying as it is, doesn't fully kill the chill, and the writers themselves have leaned into it, half joking that they're a little scared of how often the thing works. Because knowing its statistics doesn't change what's glowing on your screen. A flu they named after a Japanese city, spreading through Japan, in the very year their other scenes kept marking. Coincidence is the boring answer. It might even be the correct one. It still somehow doesn't feel like enough. So, here's where I'll leave you. The Simpsons never saw the future. It simply understood people, our greed, our panic, our endless talent for repeating ourselves well enough that the future kept rhyming with the punchlines. 6 of these are still loading as we speak. One already arrived, by mail, from Osaka. So maybe the scariest prediction on this whole list isn't any single scene at all. It's that we turned out to be so predictable a cartoon called it first. That's all for today. If you found this useful, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who'd care. Catch you next time.